I always had a tight internal policy in my mind: never write when you feel vulnerable. Today, I'm giving up on that. All writing is vulnerable, as I realised when I wrote my PhD thesis, some more than others, naturally. How else do we learn if not to share our real, true experiences and thoughts? I do often wonder that pain can communicate and teach us far more than we ordinarily share. It's certainly been the underlying basis for my education and knowledge base, and certainly something that I value far more than my qualifications, masters, PhD. I think there's something really powerful about what our intuition and what our embodied experience can teach us. I was in a lot of pain, and I was doing some research, as I do, and so this article is based around a lot of thoughts that came out of that pain, and also on my thinking about a quote, which is illness unravels the tension between the universality of illness and its intensely private, often lonely nature. The quote is by Havi Carel. So I begin with some irony. I write this with a lingering migraine and slight eye pain, which has thankfully died down for now. It is less now than early this morning, when I awoke with a terrible throbbing migraine and feeling starved of oxygen, something that has become a semi-regular occurrence in my life again, along with the terrible pangs of insomnia. My way of coping with pain and surviving is often to research, to find ways to distract myself, to educate myself, to make sense of and also reflect on the insights and communication of that pain. I should probably be in bed, not looking at a screen, but that kind of rest for me is also painful, as my body will scream blue murder in pain. I thought it might be better to just look through my blue filter glasses instead onto a screen and do some research instead. Perhaps learn something or share something of value, I hope. Let's see what unravels in this impromptu, brief writing and narration that is an act of survival, communication, connection, sharing, and hopefully a temporary painkiller. Painkillers do not help. Paracetamol or migraine pills, they do not even cut the pain and the side effects of the migraine medication. Creates really strange sensations and tightness in my chest, and has some terrible side effects that I've heard other people have actually experienced as well. And access to healthcare, can't even go there. Even if one can be given an appointment, not anything as drastic as be actually seen with a chronic illness, certainly, and perhaps even with acute pain, one is often met with chaotic bafflement, as has been my experience. The system is insane, in my opinion. Healthcare has long entered insanity. My personal view now is not to rely on that, and at best I can take responsibility for my own well-being as much as I can, and the rest is with God. I hope for a better future. The acceptance that there will be bad moments, and the hopeful light that even if at moments is dim, that there will be relief. That's all I can hang on to sometimes. Is it a consolation? I remind myself there is always day after night and light after dark, and find comfort in the oft restated verse from the Quran that with hardship comes ease. Also acknowledging that this does not always relieve the intensity of suffering or the reality of isolation or painful philosophizing on the nature of existence in those moments. So this quote that I mentioned, which I stumbled upon, made me wander off in my mind again on the nature of this intense, private, lonely communication. The scream from within when our body so desperately is trying to say something non-verbal, whatever that pain, illness, disease, or discomfort may be. Do we listen? Can we listen? But it is not a sound, so how do we feel into what feels terrible? How to touch base with the feeling that hurts? It is indeed of a lonely nature. The deafening silence of loneliness in pain is something else. All I can hear is the intense rain shower beyond the walls that keep me dry, thank God. I can't hear my pain, I can sense it. I feel it's communication. There are multiple pains if I really feel into it. Ouch. It's strange how something screams but we cannot hear it, yet we can feel it. Perhaps we are used to thinking of a scream as an audible sound. I feel the emotions it evokes physiologically as my body tries to adjust to a deeper state of survival. I try to keep at bay those pokey, prickly questions that I do not want to be thinking about when feeling so vulnerable. But no, here they are. What will happen when I die? What will happen when I'm alone and older? What will happen when I can't work? What will happen when I can't afford to live? Go to get groceries. I don't trust the medical system in the least bit based on a lifetime of experience. So where would I get access to healthcare? What if I die alone here and no one knows? I know where I want to be, but I can't get there. Everything feels restricted. There but not. Oh dear, the mind can be so tricky. Stay with God. Stay with God, I think. Yeah, but stay with God. But some of these questions need answering. Why do I live? Where do I do? Where I do? Where do I want to live? Who is my community? Do I have a community? The realization that I do not have a community, that recent realization of wanting to leave the city where I ended up for over a decade, and new questions I have never really thought about on where I belong and having no answer. Yes, no wonder I'm going to have a migraine. Although this is not new, these have been around from childhood. A continuation of an activated hypersympathetic system in a world that is not designed for sensitive soul-mind bodies. Most often it is considered a virtue societally, certainly in some communities and spaces, not to discuss pain, to instead communicate one's gratitude for all they do have, as if it is not possible to be a person who feels gratitude despite pain, or the communication of that. It is the pain of pain that causes people to put up a defense of not wanting to hear or witness, because it is so painful to admit helplessness. We feel the need to fix. We do not know how to just be, let alone with ourselves or with someone in pain. Another irony, given the true prophetic way, was one of being able to be with the vulnerable. The reward of being with someone in pain is likened to that of God being in your presence, yet so difficult to apply in our busy daily lives, which are designed and manufactured by several decades, if not longer, of isms and systems pushing for individuation and thus isolation. What better way to break humans in society than attack the fundamental core necessity and need of our existence, the need to be a connected collective, as we were designed, to hold the space of reciprocity. It's broken. We are broken. Some feel pain and some are numb. What happens when we are silenced or gaslit within ourselves by circumstance, by the messages we receive, by the reality of isolation and lack of presence of another physically, by healthcare, by community, by spiritual bypassing, by cultural suppression, by our own learnt defences? An epistemic injustice, exacerbated by the disregarding, ignoring, not taking into account an unseen vulnerability that this all creates. So it makes me think and wonder, how can we create and apply psychological safety, as Edmondson put it, in pain? I am creating a cliffhanger. I am now too tired to go on to the solutions, so we'll aim to share a part 2. Here I am applying psychological safety by learning to stop where I need rather than where I think I ought to, based on constructed ideas in my mind and of expectations. We have to keep that lighthouse beam going, as a special person has taught me. I will end on sharing a couple of sayings as a form of support and hope that I hope people can draw on in the state of vulnerability when in pain. This one is from the Islamic tradition, and it was reported that the messenger Muhammad, peace be upon him, had said this: "Verily God the exalted and glorious will say on the day of judgment, O son of Adam, I fell ill, but you did not visit me. The human will ask, O my sustainer, how could I visit you when you are the sustainer of the worlds, and how can you fall sick? He the Almighty will say, Did you not know that such and such a servant of mine was sick, but you did not visit him? Did you not know that had you visited him, you would have found me by his side? Know that however alone and isolated you are, God is by your side." And finally, I will share a quote of Rumi's: "Be a little drop of love in someone's ocean of pain." Sending love and prayers as always from me to you.